Coach Rivera, congratulations. You survived this draft. Before we get into where that lunch was that your defensive coordinator took you, is there a little bit of a sigh of relief now? Or?
There is, Julie, because I really feel like we addressed the needs. We were able to pick the players that we had on our board. We listened to the board, we listened to our scouts, we listened to just the coaches in general, and just kind of got a feel. So as we went through it, we were very, very fortunate in terms of the guys that we really liked were sitting there.
All right, so that was the question going into it. I asked you, how do you decide between who Scott Turner wants, who Jack Del Rio wants? You said who takes me to lunch and the lunch that you like. So I have to ask you, what did defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio do?
We did Mexican food.
Okay.
Now, what would happen was Jamin Davis is a young man we really felt strong about. And as we were going through it, the guy that was sticking out the most was Jamin. And he fits a need. He's a guy that's going to come in and give us a little something different on the defensive side of the ball, and we're pretty excited because he's going to impact the team as well.
Coach, you've been in this league a long time, and none of us ever have dealt with anything like COVID. Could you please tell me how different this year was, considering no combine, considering getting the medicals from the players 3 weeks before the draft? How difficult was that process compared to years of the past?
Freddie, it was very hard, very difficult because you don't have the information at your fingertips. So you had to really, truly go out and get it. Our scouts had to work extra, had to work overtime. They did a heck of a job. They really did. Got us a lot of quality information. But the hard part came when you were trying to get the medical research done, because a lot of it was on paper. And so there's a lot of trust that was going on. One of the benefits that did come from this was you were able to Zoom conversations with these guys, with these players. And to be quite honest, for the most part, I do the top 100. Or at least what we have as a top 100. So as we started going through the setting the final board, I got a chance to cherry pick who I felt were the guys that were going to be where we needed them to be, and really got a chance to get to know them, and I think that helped us as well.
Well, when it comes to that and you're trying to make the board and decide that, if all things are equal, what is the determining factor?
Well, I think to me it's what we call fit. And Freddie, you know that if a guy fits your culture and he fits your scheme, that makes it even better. And so as you interview these guys, you're really trying to find that portion out. They're all great athletes. And as you grade these guys, and there's just a little bit of difference here or there, the fit part becomes very important.
I see a commonality, too, to some of these picks. When I look at Jamin Davis, he can play Mike, Sam, and Will. When I look at Benjamin St. Juice, he can play corner inside, outside at 6'3". Was versatility one of the keys to this draft, your DNA or the identity of the guys you want to chase?
Exactly. Position flex is big for us. And it's something I learned early in my career as a player and early in my career as a coach, because if something were to happen, something odd, something strange, you got to move players around. They've got to be able to adapt. And having that kind of versatility is very important as far as we're concerned.
You guys made a trade to get some extra picks, and you did it with the Eagles. Kind of what went into the thinking on making that trade to get those extra picks in this draft? And also, what was going on with all the trades and deals going on with the NFC East? It's like making deals with the devil, right?
Yes. Well, it was really about if it benefited you more so than anything else, you did it. And that's why we were willing to deal with them, and they were probably willing to deal with us. What we did getting a couple extra picks was it gave us an opportunity to sign draft a couple of guys that you're going to be sitting there trying to sign. And when you're going back and forth, you're throwing money that you don't need to throw at guys that you may not be able to keep. So for the most part, getting a couple extra draft picks, it ensured the fact that we were going to get the long snapper we really liked. And then it gave us an opportunity to get a couple extra depth guys that we weren't going to have to compete for later on. So that was the idea behind that.
How hard was it with a pick like John Bates? Because when I look at him, he's a guy that's talented, just didn't get the chance to make 50 catches or 60 catches. How hard was it to put him in the box and say, you know what, he fits our style, and he hasn't topped out yet. He hasn't met his peak performance yet.
That's exactly it, Freddie. He hasn't really peaked. We feel he's got a high ceiling. He's a terrific blocker first and foremost. And couple him, with Logan, we really feel it gives us a good tandem of guys. And then who knows with the other tight ends that we have on our roster. But just looking at Bates and looking at what John brings, we feel that his blocking is more than above average. But we also like the potential as a receiver. As you said, he didn't get the ball thrown to him enough, in my opinion. And I asked him that question. I loved his answer. He said, Coach, I did what they asked me to do because it helped the team. That I thought was one of the best answers I gotten all day. It was all about the team.
Do you see the same thing as Sam Cosby?
Yes.
Because when I see him, I see a guy look like he can just bench the weight room, and I see a guy that can move very well for a big guy, but he's not a technician.
Yes.
So I'm like, well, Coach say, I can see through his eyes, like, if once I give him some technique, he can be dominant.
Exactly, and that's one of the things I really liked about listening to what Coach Masco and Coach Wharton both said, and that's, hey, once we work and fix him in terms of his footwork, his hand placement, because he's a tremendous athlete, got great play strength, and you really like that about him, and he's competitive as heck. But as we refine his techniques, and he'll get better and better, but he also has the ability to play the other side and play inside as well.
You also add a little bit to the secondary, Benjamin St. Juice. You talk about, I mean, you're adding a bit of length here.
Yes.
6'3", yeah.
Yeah, 6'3". How do you find that's going to really kind of help you in what you guys really kind of want to do?
Well, he's got good speed for his length. So if you add on, and one of the things that people always talk about, if a guy doesn't run an elite speed, runs a good speed, but has elite length, he makes up that lack of speed because of the length. So we feel real comfortable. The thing we liked about him was the way he planted and drive and played into the ball. We thought this is a guy that can create, make things happen. So again, we can protect him in certain situations, and in other situations, we can put him in an ideal position to make plays. So we feel real comfortable with him.
Coach, I love late round draft picks. I loved them when I was in the locker room because they come in with this built-in chip on their shoulder.
Yes.
And I had a chance to interview William Bradley King and Shaka Tony. And as much as they was, how should I say, excited, that you could tell in there how they was talking, they was mad because they feel like they were supposed to go higher. I seen you go D-line with the last couple of picks. What do you feel these guys are bringing to the table?
Well, we feel that these are guys, again, like you said, going to have a big chip on them. But again, these are guys that are explosive off the ball, that were guys that force things to happen from the edge. One of the toughest things for us in free agency was to attract guys to come here because of our two edge players. We didn't get the guys that we were kind of hoping in free agency, so we figured we needed to pick a couple of them to have them come be part of what we're trying to do as far as our outside rushers.
And let me ask you about Derek Forrest as well. It comes from a family of 12 kids, by the way. 12. I thought that was fascinating. I'm like, what is dinner like around your family?
Shared.
But the thing that he said he really prides himself on is his film study. He says it helps him play faster, that helps him know where to line up and where he wants to be. He played all 4 years at Cincinnati, and he said, you know what? I go, what are you getting in? What are you getting in you? He said, I'm a great leader.
That's exactly what we've heard. I mean, everything we got out of them, as far as he was concerned, was positive. And in terms of leadership role, a veteran guy that stayed, that helped bring along the other guys. So we expect a guy to come in, compete right away, be part of what exactly we're trying to build. Plus, he's got special teams value. He's a core guy that can play all four. He was our highest ranked special teams player as well. The last time this team drafted a very highly ranked special teams guy, Terry McLaurin. So again, we feel very comfortable with this pick.
Speaking of Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown selected in the 3rd round overall. And talk about somebody with a chip on his shoulder. When I chatted with him, he was a little bit ticked off because he thought he should go higher. Yeah. And he said, you know what? And I said, well, what do you feel that you need to do to try and improve? He said, I don't prove to everybody else, but I want to prove it to myself that I belong at this level. Yeah. And I said, we don't sleep on 3rd round picks. We celebrate them.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin. But what does he need to do to prove to himself that he is worth being right here and contributing?
Well, I think the biggest thing is again, he's going to be the guy that we want to emulate Terry. We want him to come out and play like Terry played when he got here. Have that chip on your shoulder. Be an explosive, dynamic guy, because his vertical stretch ability is really going to play big for us. Why? Because you put him on the field with the other guys that we have, and he's either going to open things up or he's going to make big things happen down the field. You know, he's a vertical threat that really, I think, adds legitimacy to that. You couple him with Fitzpatrick, and that's going to be a scary proposition for a lot of people. Again, we went out and wanted to, intentionally bring team speed to what we wanted to do on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, before we go, I have to ask you about the long snapper, about Cameron Chaseman.
Yes.
We let Fred do this interview for him, and he comes in, took a year off, but he's ready to come out there and contribute and be. We knew, obviously, with Nick Sundberg being gone, you needed a long snapper. The moves to take him where you did, the reasoning behind that, and also, you probably haven't had the chance to go to Twitter yet, but he's willing to have a lot of fun with his name.
Cheese.
Nobody says you can cut him, because you can't cut the cheese, Coach.
No one, yeah, you're right about that. and the thing about it too is I've always been fortunate wherever I've been. We've had good long snappers. I was in Carolina, and JJ was there forever. I get here and Nick had been here forever. Now's an opportunity to bring in the next generational guy that hopefully stays 10 years, part of what this organization is trying to build and sustain over a period of time. He is an interesting character. He's a guy that was our #1 ranked guy. That's why we did what we did. We felt if we can get this guy in the 6th round, this will be the guy that could be a generational player that stays a generation. He stays for 10 years. That's what you hope to get from a long snapper.
All right, well, we already know. He told us everybody's just going to call him Cheese.
Cheese.
He says there's
And
no escaping
he's
it.
a good sport about it.
He's heard it all. He was
Yeah.
a very good sport about it, but also willing and excited for the opportunity, willing to contribute. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time. We know it has been a very long, not just 3 days throughout the entire draft, but months leading up to this of prep work. So enjoy the night, celebrate, and I know it's going to be hard at work putting these guys into the roster and building towards 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.